Hello, I think we're live now. Hello, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Craig, yeah, I can hear you very clearly.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, thank you all for attending the Microcredit Summit. Sarah, did you want to begin with an introduction, or shall I just proceed? Sarah may be having audio problems. Can the rest of the attendees hear me okay?
So yes, Craig, I can hear you too.
Marcus can, okay. Well, we'll just begin. We're thrilled to be presenting the Mifos technology platform, Mifos X, Musoni for next generation microfinance, and Marcus Geese, who's one of the developers for Mifos. So Mifos is a nonprofit 501c3 organization. We are a thought leader for technology-enabled financial inclusion. And we are committed to achieving that mission by actually building the technology and making it accessible to the world of financial inclusion. Our technology is designed to serve the base of the pyramid, and we provide tools and best practices for responsible financial inclusion, and we endorse standards for openness and transparency. So I'm Craig Chellis, the Executive Director of the Mifos Initiative. Joining me on today's e-seminar is Cameron Goldie-Scott, the CEO of Musoni Services, and Marcus Geese, a System Architect and Developer for the Mifos Initiative. Mifos X is the only truly open source platform for financial inclusion that's available today. We are dedicated to building this technology. It is 100% open source. And what that means is the software and all of the tools and the processes and the best practices that go with that software are 100% open to anyone who wants to use it anywhere in the world, absolutely royalty-free with no license, and you can use it worldwide in perpetuity. As is any pure open source software project, we make this software globally free, available to you absolutely free. And that is assured under the Mozilla public license, which is the legal document that makes it open source. We have an enormous contributor network around the world, which I'll talk about in a minute, and we have installations and institutions using us all over the world. A lot of people ask questions about open source, and they don't realize they're actually using it every day and that it's become absolutely mainstream. That open source is a safe and valuable means of achieving technology goals. A lot of people don't realize that the entire internet is in fact powered by open source. From the operating system that it's run on, Linux, to the Apache web server, to the MySQL database, to the Java development language, to the Mozilla Firefox browser, the entire internet is open source and you use it every day. And this is what makes the internet such an incredibly valuable and powerful force for progress and development in the world. If you have a great idea, you do not need to reinvent and rebuild the internet every time. Rather, you take your tremendous idea and the value it provides and you build it on top of the internet, and everybody around the world is reusing the internet, and the internet is in fact completely open source. Now, this is an idea that is actually spreading to financial services and spreading quite fast. It's not just that financial service institutions, from small banks to major to global institutions, are using, the Linux operating system. They are. It's not just that they're using the MySQL database, which is open source. They are. They're actually starting to use open source components in their software platforms. For example, a very large bank recently built a trading application. And they recognized, as in so many facets of financial services, whether it's running a checking account, running a savings account, or running a trading platform, that the transactions are simply components that are the same every time. And that their true value add with regard to this trading application is in their trading algorithms, their trading value add, their people and their traders, not in the software. So they built this sophisticated system. 2/3 of it was open source, and the remaining 1/3 was their unique value add. So in fact, this idea that so much of what we do with technology should be a reusable component is fast becoming standard practice. There's a place on the internet called the Central Repository where you can download software components to reuse. It had 13 billion component downloads in the year 2013. That's 13 billion. And we passionately believe that financial inclusion needs to move to this open platform components approach. Resources are too precious for everyone to reinvent and rebuild the same wheel every time. You need to take those precious resources and put them into the unique value add at the provider level, at the service level, and at the regional level where there's a powerful argument for needing customization and value add. But the core background components, just as with the internet, should be reusable components that you don't have to rebuild every time. And this is precisely what Mifos X is. We have all the components you need to build a financial inclusion solution upon which you can then express and develop your own unique value add. And it's a very powerful idea to save tremendous amounts of money, to increase speed to market with unique solutions, and make financial inclusion achievable for everyone in the world. And we believe in this idea very passionately. And that passion is represented by the global community that we have. We're not just a bunch of software developers, but we are, and we're great software developers. But around the world, we have deployment partners, community volunteers, users, as in users who are in the financial institutions who use us. And we come together in the community that we call the Mifos community. And 80% of what we do is community-driven. In fact, we're having our community summit next month in Dubai. And this community, combined with the open source, creates this tremendous virtuous cycle of shared knowledge, shared components, and shared effort that makes financial inclusion achievable at a much faster rate. And what I'd like to do now is introduce to you a tremendous example and a very successful example of how this notion of using open source financial components and yet providing on top of that regional and institutional expertise in value add, and that would be Musoni, who's built the next generation for microfinance software. Now I have to pass the ball to
Thank you, Craig.
Cameron. Shall I advance your slides for you?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how. If you could pass the ball over to me, then I assume I'd be able to jump onto it there.
Oops. I'm trying to pass the ball. There we go. I think you have it.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Great. Okay. So hopefully everyone can hear me. If you have any questions, please feel free to add the questions to the communal chat, and I'll do my best to answer them either as we're going along or at the end, whatever works best or whatever is most appropriate, depending on the question. Okay, well, thank you very much, Craig, for that great introduction to Mifos. I'm here to talk about Musoni and what we do. And we've been a Mifos partner for the last 2 years, actually. So we've built our software platform on top of the Mifos platform. Firstly, what are we? Well, we're a microfinance software company. We work with microfinance organizations all over Africa, but our focus really has been East Africa in the past, so Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania primarily. And aside from the core microfinance functionality, so your clients and groups, your loans and savings, accounting, reporting, all of the core functionality, what we really specialize in is pioneering new technologies. So looking at things like integrating mobile money, like M-Pesa, into the software, SMS modules for automated payment reminders, and tablet applications or Android applications to go paperless, and to enable loan officers to capture data in the field remotely. Because of this, we've won a number of awards. We've won awards for technology leadership, for innovation in technology last year. And actually, I'm very pleased to say that one of the organizations using our platform in Tanzania just last week in London won the Financial World Innovation Awards for their use of technology, which was the Musoni system. As I said, we have 15 MFIs on the platform. We serve around 60,000 end customers through that. And this has all been achieved in a relatively short space of time. We launched just under 2 years ago. And the entirety of this platform has been built upon Mifos X, which is the platform Mifos, as Craig was explaining. Why did we choose to go with Mifos? Well, there were quite a few reasons, but the first one is probably actually the synergy between what we were trying to do at Musoni and the work that Mifos, the great work that Mifos had already done. We had a huge amount of experience combining innovative technologies like mobile, Android, tablets, SMS, with microfinance and using that to improve efficiency. And we also had a lot of experience running an MFI. Alongside that, the Mifos team had a huge amount of experience in the underlying logic that powers a microfinance platform. And therefore, it was a really nice overlap that meant that rather than us trying to reinvent the wheel, we could leverage upon all of the great work that the Mifos community had done. We could add our value add, the integration with mobile, tablets, etc., and it allowed us to bring a great product to market a lot faster than we ever would have been able to do otherwise. Aside from that, it's brilliant being part of such an active community with participants, whether they're developers or microfinance organizations or resellers all over the world. And we benefit a lot from the experiences and learnings and feedback that we get from partners in India, partners in Ghana and Nigeria, and all of that is experience that we wouldn't get if we were only operating in one small market ourselves. Aside from that, well, we're a social impact company. Our goal is to improve the quality and availability of financial inclusion, and in particular to try and spread financial inclusion into rural areas. So for the company and for the individual team members within the company, we really value the social impact that we can achieve by contributing back some of the technology we've built to the Mifos platform, which is very powerful because it allows us to hopefully support microfinance organizations all over the world and achieve far greater scale than we would ever be able to do just on our own. So I'm just going to go through some of the new technologies that we've added and just explain a little bit about what we've done, before then taking a look at how we've incorporated the PPI surveys and the social performance measurements into the Musoni system. Firstly, we enable our clients all over the world to repay and receive their loans or to receive their savings or deposit money into their savings accounts through mobile money. We've integrated the Musoni system with M-Pesa in Tanzania and Kenya, with Airtel in Tanzania and Kenya, with Payway and MTN in Uganda, and we're currently in discussions with EcoCash in Zimbabwe, Tigo Cash in Ghana, all with the aim of when a client goes on to one of these existing mobile money transfer services, they can send their money straight to the microfinance organization, freeing up a huge amount of time for them, much safer. They no longer need to carry cash to the bank and queue up to deposit their money. Instead, they can just send it with a click of a button the moment they have a spare moment, a time convenient for them. And actually, one of the interesting things is that over 60% of all of the payments that we process each day tend to come in outside of normal banking hours. So before 9 in the morning, after 5 in the evening, or over the weekend. And I think that really demonstrates that from an end user, from a customer point of view, people really value this flexibility and the usability or ease of use of mobile money. So far, we've processed over 2 million mobile money transfer transactions. And so I think it's safe to say we've really pioneered this. We also were the first 100% mobile microfinance organization in the world when we launched in 2009 back in Kenya. It's not just about the mobile money though. We also added SMS messages to the platform to enable you to just use the platform to easily set up payment reminders that would get sent to a client the day before a payment was due, or arrears follow-up messages or marketing campaigns. We've sent out about 1.5 million SMS messages over the last year or so, and the impact that they have on portfolio quality is staggering compared to how low cost they are and how easy it is to set up. So we really recommend organizations to adopt the SMS. But I guess last but not least, we also have, about 2 years ago, we built an app to replace the paper forms that field officers could use. And this app does 4 things. It does client registration, group registration, site visits, which could be PPI surveys, which is actually where we have them on the app, and loan applications. And the app works in online and offline mode. It can be used in remote rural areas, and you can carry out the client registration in offline mode. Once you've entered all the client information, done a GPS tag, and taken a photo of the client, it will store all of that on the tablets until the loan officer has connectivity again sometime in the future. And when they have connectivity, they can sync it to the system, and all of that information is sent automatically back to the platform where it can be reviewed normally in real time. This is still relatively new. I think we're one of the leaders in the market for it, and we've processed about, I think, around 40,000 client registrations and a similar number of loan applications through the system. One of the things that, actually, just before I jump onto that, Eric, one of my team members, just launched a new blog yesterday. We've just redesigned some of the user experience on the app. It still does the same core functionality, but you should be able to, I'll try and post a link to that, or you can visit our website, Musoni System, to actually see what the app actually looks like in practice. I've just seen a question come in from Roland Vanderberg, which was, what are the transaction costs for mobile money for the clients? It's a great question. Thank you, Roland. And it varies significantly country by country. We don't charge anything extra for the mobile money integration. It's just a core bit of the actual system. If you're using the Musoni system, then you get access to the mobile money integration and the automated integration so that when a client makes a repayment, it's reflected in the system automatically. However, the client still does have to pay Safaricom or Airtel or EcoCash or whoever it might be the actual transaction fee. Normally, that averages out at something between $15 and $20 cents, but it varies depending on which mobile network operator you're speaking to and the size of the transaction normally. But that $15 to $20 cents is less than it would cost the client to actually travel to their nearest bank or to their nearest branch to make the repayment. So clients value it quite a lot. Jumping on. PPI, which is why we're all here. Aside from launching all of these new technologies, we also wanted to make sure that it was as easy as possible for microfinance organizations using the Musoni system to capture social performance data on their clients. And so I think we were the first microfinance platform out there to just incorporate the PPI surveys into the system as standard, so that anyone could, any microfinance organization could go in, enter the information, and have the likelihood of the client being above or below a poverty line calculated automatically. And that's what I'll demo to you just now. We've done about 20,000 surveys so far since launching it in Kenya primarily, and all of these are actually being captured on the tablet app. So we have the questions configured on the tablet and on the system, and that allows the loan officer to actually capture the data in real time in the field, and it gets sent back to the system automatically. I now just want to jump on and actually show you exactly how this works. So I'm going to share my screen. I just need to look for exactly how I will be able to do that. Theoretically, I should be sharing my screen now, so let me know if you can actually, let me know if you can see this at all. You should be able to see a login page that has a fair bit of eye candy on it, lots of graphs, lots of graphics. Could one of the other presenters just jump off mute and let me know if the screen sharing is working?
Greg, everything is fine.
Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you very much. So what I've just jumped onto is the dashboard, or the first page you get to when you log in to the Musoni system. It's a cloud-based platform, so you can see you just have a URL up here, but I'm not going to go through a whole demo, don't worry. What we're going to do is to show how I would add a social performance survey to a client, and we'll just go to a client's page now. Just pick a random dummy client, Wayne Rooney, and you can see that we get taken to what we call the client details page, which contains all of the core information about the client. We're going to skip past all of the core information over on the left. We're going to skip past the account information and everything around here. You can see we've got a tab at the top right called PPI. And under that tab, I can see that so far we've filled out 2 PPI surveys for this particular client, one of them for Tanzania, one of them for Kenya. Obviously, normally you'd only ever do one for your particular organization, but this is a demo environment. So if I wanted to add, let's say one of my field officers had just gone out to the field and they'd gone through the 10 PPI questions with one of their clients, and they'd filled that out on paper and then brought that back to a branch. If I then wanted to add this to the system, I could just click Add PPI Survey here, and you can see it's currently set up for the Tanzania 2012 survey. So I'll just start off going through the questions, and I'll select today's date, click Next, and now we have the 10 questions. So how many household members are 17 years and younger? I would say, let's say we have 3 people under 17. Do all children ages 6 to 17 attend school? I'd say no. Can the female head spouse read or write? I would say yes in Kiswahili. What's the main building material? And so I'll just jump through these a little faster now. So what's the roof made out in the house? And these are obviously the 10 questions that are specific to Tanzania. The questions vary country by country. So I'm just going through these questions, and at the very end, I can click Save. So I think someone just picked up a phone. So if you could mute yourself, please, that would be very useful. Okay, so we've now completed that survey. And you can see that actually, well, I did one earlier today just to make sure it worked, but you can see that the one we've just done, all of the answers to that question.
I'm joining the workshop of Mifos, and they are presenting the Musoni, right? Yeah.
Okay, whoever's on the phone right now, could I ask you?
It's quite interesting.
Okay, we'll just jump on there. So we can see that out of those questions, it generated a score of 51, which is all linked to the Grameen data tables behind the questions. And that 51, oh, I've just been muted now. Hang on.
Okay. Okay. I am the consultant company, and my client is a microfinance institution, and I'm looking for the loan software for them. I'm trying to be like a partner of Mifos or something like that, but the process is quite slow. Yeah. And okay.
When it was completed, and just flicking down, I can see all of the questions and all of the answers. So that's how it's been set up for Tanzania. But let's say I was an MFI and I wanted to just start using it for Musoni, Kenya, or let's say I wanted to change the poverty line I was measuring against. that can be done very, very easily. I would just go to Configuration and then Customization here. And then once I've done that, I have a little tab that just says PPI Surveys. And you can see here that we've actually got it set up for Tanzania, Kenya, and Uganda at the moment. And we'll launch it, but it takes about 2 hours or so just to set up the questions and the answers for any new country we move into. Next to that, I can select the poverty line that I would like to run the survey against. So at the moment, we had it on the International 2005 Progress Out of Poverty $2.50 line, but if I instead wanted to run it under the national 100%, then I could do that as well, and it would calculate the percentage likelihood against the new poverty table automatically. Or, for example, let's say I wanted to turn off Tanzania, and this was now for an MFI in Kenya, then I can just turn on the Kenya, and now if I go to a different client, jump to a random client here. Then if I go to PPI, I can just click Add PPI Survey, and you'll see that we've now got the Kenya questions. So it really is as simple as that. And then as I jump through, and I'll do it a bit faster on this occasion, as I jump through, you'll see that it's now calculating it against the national 100% poverty line. There we go. So we just completed another survey that had a score of 45, and it was a 30% likelihood of the client being below the national 100% poverty line. And that was using the 10 different questions for Musoni, Kenya. So that's how you would capture all the data, and that's how easy it is just to configure for your organization. If you wanted to run the reports for it, you would just jump up to Reports, Organization Reports, and then we've got the PPI scorecard here. I can't run it on this particular demo environment, but I've got a little a screenshot I can share with you in a moment. But you would just run that, and then this report actually includes a whole load of data outside of just the PPI, but we've got the PPI over on the left here, broken down by gender, broken down by business type, and age bands as well. And then we actually showed the breakdown of clients between age bands, between what the different business types are, and between male and female as well, because we see PPI data as one bit of all of the social performance measurement that a microfinance organization might do. I believe I saw a couple of questions there, so let me just pull up the chat. I saw one question from Byron Henning, which was, is the PPI customizable, e.g. additional questions or scoring? I think we looked at that briefly just now. Obviously, the actual 10 questions that for the PPI are not customizable. They are set by Grameen, and the questions have been specifically chosen in order to be an accurate calculator or indicator of a client's poverty level. However, as I said, you can change the scoring there, so you can very easily change the poverty line that you're measuring against, and you just go to Customization, go back to the PPI Surveys tab here, and then you can change your poverty line using the drop-down here. If you wanted to add the additional questions as well, we also have that option. And in fact, with the PPI that we do with one of the organizations in Kenya, they have about 25 questions and different bits of information they capture on the clients, but only 10 of them are actually the PPI. And you can do that very easily in this system. You would just go to User Forms over here, and you can design a new form. So I could create a form just like this. I could say social impact. I could associate it with a client. I could add it to a standard category, and I can say, for example, how long has the client been with the organization, whatever it might be. I can select the field type, and this could be, well, this is obviously a number. And then I can add that. Or I can say, how many hectares does the client farm? Again, well, we could have a text for that one. You can determine which are mandatory and which are not. And you can then add the PPI drop-downs to this. And once you click Save at the very end, this creates a new form. It's accessible immediately and can be added to a client account at any time. And the tablet app that's used by the loan officers in the field is also automatically updated. So it actually has that new survey on it, and loan officers can, the moment they sync it, ask those new questions and capture the data in the field. So it works really well like that. I've just seen another question from Yuri, which is the PPI on Mifos X or the Musoni systems only? Well, I think that's what Marcus is about to jump into next. Obviously, I've been talking about the Musoni system. If anyone would like to learn more, then you can go to musonisystem.com, or I think you can see my details at the end of this. And it would be great to hear from you. If you have any other questions about Musoni, I'll be very happy to answer them after the other presenters have spoken. But Cameron, thank you very much so far.
Well, Cameron, this is Craig. We do have a few other follow-up questions.
Okay, yeah, sure. So I'm not quite, maybe I'm just missing where the questions are.
No, and some are coming straight to me, so you're doing a great job on it.
Okay, please jump in. What are the questions then?
Well, one question I think is a little bit broader about social performance monitoring. I want to make sure that we address it. They're asking if you pointed out that you don't change the PPI questions because those are that's a formal methodology published by Grameen.
Yeah.
But is your system can be used with some completely different social monitoring system? Is a question.
Sure, it could be. At the moment, we've configured it for PPI, and that's been relatively straightforward for us to add. I mean, the complexity is doing the mapping behind the scenes, calculating the automatic scores, and then building the reports. But we would be very happy to add alternative social performance measurement tools, and you can either build them yourselves using the custom form feature that I just showed, or if you need a little bit of support from our development team, then that's also possible. But most organizations we work with do prefer the PPI, and I think that's partly because of just the strength of the PPI in general, its simplicity, its ease of capturing the data, and also because I think more and more of the microfinance funders are also looking at PPI as the standard social performance measurement software. So we would normally recommend people to use PPI, but we'd be happy to look at others if there was demand for it.
Thank you. And then here's another follow-up question. You showed the Musoni tablet tool.
Yeah.
And so we've, of course, been asked the question, can it also work on a smartphone?
Yes, it can. So it works on the smartphone just as well. It works on an Android device. We recommend to organizations to use, what we actually always recommend is to use a 7-inch tablet. And the reason for that is purely user-friendliness, because the loan officers are entering quite a lot of data, so not necessarily just the PPI tool, but they might also be entering loan application information, client registration info, taking photos, and it's just, well, from a user-friendliness point of view, it's just a bit nicer having a slightly bigger screen. You don't need to go all the way up to a 10-inch tablet. The 7 inches are fine and work very well, but you could use a smartphone. The other thing just to bear in mind there is a lot of our field officers run a lot of reports on the tablets. And if you're doing group lending, you might have a group report, which might have 20 people in your group, so 20 rows in that report, and you might have 10 bits of information on each of those group members, such as their loan size, their savings balances, the amount they're expected to repay. And so you end up with a 20-row, 10-column report. And that is perfectly legible on a 7-inch tablet. It's a bit harder on a much smaller smartphone screen. But from a technical point of view, it works on a smartphone.
Thank you. Okay, we have a couple of questions about Latin America, but I'm going to defer those to the end, if you don't mind, Gabriella, because Musoni is so focused on East Africa, and we want to get on to a very special conversation with Marcus, who's the lead architect and the lead developer for Musoni. So any other immediate questions for Cameron or the Musoni solution out there? If not, we'll move on to our discussion with Marcus. Okay.
Okay, let me just see if I can pass over the passable.
So, first of all, hello, everybody.
Yes. And we're seeing if we can pass. Oh, Marcus has the ball. There you go. Okay.
Yes.
Someone's done it already. Fantastic. Okay, I'll mute myself now. Go for it, Marcus.
I really wanted to be in charge, but Marcus is now.
Yeah, first of all, Cameron, as a community member, I really need to say it's awesome to see the adoption of our platform in such a nice way.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure working with you and looking forward to it for many, many years.
I never saw the Musoni systems. It was the first time for me, and it's awesome to see how it really mingles up well with our platform, right? It's cool.
Thank you.
So speaking to that, and speaking of the platform and how exciting it is to see a development like Musoni, Marcus, why did you're currently a developer and a volunteer, why did you begin contributing as a developer for the community, and what do you find rewarding in that?
I contributed a lot in before more on technical projects like DBCP or Apache database or Zookeeper, and I was looking for some kind of project which gives me a bit more a feeling of I'm doing something good. Mm-hmm. And my first approach was just reaching out to the UN guys. They started a project around their case management database and wanted an offline client. Mm-hmm. And during that time, I realized that there should be more than just doing something when something went bad already. So a bit more like making something before problems occur. And I think if we take a step back, then it all comes down to education and health. And you're only able to have education and be healthy if you got the feeling of you can make a living. And that's how I then approached to a platform like Mifos, because it's the first time I ever saw something like that, which is really an approach for the whole world to make them make a living in an easy way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. And you are now about to tackle a rather important project, which is PPI for Mifos, and you've got a slide here to sort of talk about it. Tell us about what you're about to do with PPI.
You dropped a bit. Could you please repeat the last part of the question?
Oh, I was saying, you're as a contributor, you're now about
yes.
to start a major contribution around the PPI components.
Yes.
And could you tell us about that project?
Sure, I can tell you about the project. So, we as a community heard a lot about the social performance management tools, and PPI beforehand was asked a lot. And after some discussions, including the Musoni guys, we're decided to provide something that is then usable for our complete community base. And so we started to think about what components we maybe could use. So typically you would bring up the scorecards and the lookup tables and the surveys, and then we digged a bit deeper into the manual, and we figured out that there's a lot more than just simply having service and stuff. So there's also parts like sampling, so you could have event-based sampling like Musoni is doing it, or maybe also just by deciding, now I want to make a sampling, but there's also sampling based on a more statistical approach. If you got a larger MFI and you don't want to ask every of your customer base what to do, so you can really start using some distributions and figure out how many of our customers do we need based on gender or based on location. And then we also wanted to add some ad-hoc analysis just to show them some nice, let's call it trends or stuff like that, where you really can say, okay, we now work together with this customer for, let's say, 10 or 5 years, and now we could take a look at if what we are doing and what he's doing is really making his living better. So really showing trends on the way down. And also benchmark was one part which was pretty stressed on the manual. So really showing the difference between regions or offices or even countries. So you can really say, I could put more work and effort in this area because there's the poverty line is still lower than in other parts where I'm working. And at the end of the day, it's also interesting, I guess, for founders and donors to see the impact they have. And that's what they called targeting in the manual. Mm-hmm. And I think this would be one of the biggest paybacks for funders and donors to really see that their work and their effort they're taking in are by simply seeing simple numbers that show them that they really have an impact on somebody.
And so I've advanced through some of the slides. You've got some very simple benchmarks like the targeting and the benchmarking and the ad hoc analysis, and this is what you're referring to.
Right. So if you take a look here, you can see pretty simple to say, first of all, what we like to do is just having the likelihood based on your configuration directly shown to you, and also a slightly indicator if it's trending up or down. Mm-hmm. So if you really do more surveys than just one, you can see if he increases his own possibilities, and also have some kind of a line chart where you could simply see over the time how he progresses or not, right? So could both be the case. Okay. And the same in this case would be for stuff like district benchmark, where you really could use pretty simple indicators like these bubbles, right, to show the areas where you're doing good and areas where you're maybe not doing that good. And then you could really start trying to dig deeper into that and really use the data to figure out what's going on there or why, or maybe setting up some special programs just to get it a bit better there than others, right?
Yes.
And also pretty simple targeting. It's based on the idea of them is just to set some targets and say, okay, I want to increase it by 1%, I want to increase it by 1.15%, and you could really measure it against what happens. And as a donor, you can see, oh, they're doing good or they're doing fine, and then you could start ask questions or maybe find an advisor who helps out getting more out of it.
And Marcus, you're about to undertake this project. You're going to be developing in the Mifos platform. It's open source, and you have quite a bit of expertise in open source. Can you give us a little bit about your insight on how you feel open source technology really is a powerful enabler for financial institutions?
Sure. So first of all, I think because it's open by nature, it allows integration and adoption in a pretty easy way, right? You could, in our case especially, you could simply pick the platform, download it, start it, and you're ready to go. So you only need to set up your clients and your offices and decide what kind of products you want to offer, and then you're good. And this is all for you. It's just simply some hour amount of work, but there's no other fee in it. And this given, it's affordable and available, and simply it's there, right? You do not need to take care about anything. And one thing I believe, which is really the best of it, is you could rely on a bunch of guys like me who are pretty into it and really want to share their knowledge and give their expertise to a project like that. And you can be sure that given that, you will have a lot of performance and security and all that is mingled in, because guys are weird, right? Mm-hmm. We're loving what we're doing, and it's really needed to be there.
Okay. Thank you. Does anybody, we're about to move on to some other questions that are building up, but while we have Marcus on the phone, does anyone have any really specific questions about open source development or open source technology? Often there's a lot of confusion about that, and here's a rare opportunity for you to speak to a leading open source developer if you have a specific question. If not, we'll move on to some of the more general questions. I just want to throw out that possibility. If you don't have it now, but you're thinking of it, go ahead and put it into the question queue. Okay. All right, Marcus, thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, and we did get one question. This is always the tough question for a developer. As you begin working on this project of the PPI, what do you think the timeline looks like?
Oh, the timeline. So we're currently in the solution concept phase. I could also move the one slide up, because we also have a roadmap here, right? So the milestone 1, which would be something like a special version for dedicated partners, so we can really be sure that the way we're heading to is the right way, will be ready at the end of the first quarter, and it will contain the scorecards and lookup tables and a bunch of simple reports. Then we will use the second quarter to, first of all, mingle in the feedback from our special partners, and then we introduce sampling and the ad hoc analysis. So we could use the more statistical approach and also have some, first of all, nice view elements to show where your customers are at. And the last milestone will be around benchmarking and targeting, and especially around the part of the client impact, so that you're really able to see and show, especially for your funders and donors, the impact they have through you in this case, right? And once milestone 2 is out there, it's available for the complete community, so everybody can install it and everybody can use it. And at the end of the day, milestone 3 will just be adding some additional features to it, so there will also be no migration steps needed or stuff like that. So it's just slightly milestones we are using which build up on each other, so there's no real fear to have some migrations if you're coming in early and then we start doing things.
Excellent. The quarter by quarter by quarter, that'll actually come quite quickly, so that's an exciting development.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we're going to move on to some questions. I'd just like to comment that the passion and the commitment you heard from Marcus, while is very special and extraordinary, is actually quite common in our community. We are a community that has dozens of people who are committed to this, who are volunteering for this, and who have committed their careers to this. And it's a very, very exciting environment to be part of. So thank you very much, Marcus.
You're more than welcome. Maybe I could mention one more thing, because a few questions before were all about, is it only PPI or could we do other stuff like that, right? Mm-hmm. So our current plan is providing a social performance management framework, and PPI will be our proof of concept. So the first part we will by ourselves introduce to this framework, and we got on our roadmap other stuff like MPAT, and also the ability to create your own surveys and scorecards. So we really started making it a bit bigger than only PPI. It's all about social performance in general.
Excellent. That's an excellent.
Just to let you know, because there were a few questions about that, and our approach is really starting with a broader approach and just using PPI as a proof of concept and beforehand.
Thank you.
Great. Just to jump in, I saw one question, which is probably good to clarify, which was to use the Mifos PPI, do we need to use the Musoni platform, which is obviously not the case, but maybe you want to just jump in and explain kind of the different ways that different people around the world would be able to benefit from Mifos.
Yeah, sure. So Musoni has done the first step for doing a PPI, and they're contributed parts of it back to us, so that's the starting point for us. We're taking a look at their implementation. So first of all, thanks to those guys, right? And we're just taking this one on and driving it further, and then it's available within our platform, so you do not need Musoni's approach for it, and can use the built-in functionalities in our platform for that. But the root, at the end of the day, will be some work the guys from Musoni have done.
Great. Thank you. Okay, we're coming up on the hour, and I want to get some more questions in. And we have a group of questions that are all about Latin America. So it so happens we have two senior members of our management team on the call, both of them who have a passionate interest in Latin America. So I'm actually going to ask them to come off mute and engage in a short discussion here about Latin America. That, of course, would be Ed Cable. Ed is the director of our community. He's intimately involved in building the community around the world. It so happens that our community first began in India, moved to East and West Africa, and now we're in the process of helping this community take root in Latin America, and that's a very passionate interest of Ed's. We also have Dana Harp on the line, and she has actually moved to Latin America. She's currently living in Belize. She assures us that's not because of the beach, but because of her commitment to getting the community up and running in Latin America. So Ed and Dana, are you able to take yourselves off of mute, or do we do that? Yes. All right. So Ed, are you there?
Yeah, I'm on, Craig.
And Dana, are you there? Well, we'll start with Ed.
Possibly.
Yeah, Dana's on as well.
Oh, there you are.
Very good. Very good. Thank you.
So we had a general question to start with. Is Mifos X and is the community active in Latin America, or is it coming to Latin America? And could you and Dana please have a short discussion about that?
Well, Ed, if you could start with what we have currently, I'll share what some of the plans are that I have that are ongoing even as we speak.
Sure. Yeah, so the community is present and active in Latin America, but we're definitely looking to grow our presence. So if there are any potential partners who would like to spearhead the efforts of championing and distributing the Mifos X platform throughout Latin America, or any local financial institutions looking to use the platform, please be in touch with us. So we have some active partners in Uruguay, Peru, the Caribbean, and Mexico who are working to advance Mifos X, but we're looking to find more partners who can lead the efforts to grow the reach of our platform. So.
And Ed, you've gone to some effort to develop Spanish translations and Spanish material. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so Dana can elaborate further on this, but the Mifos X platform and the community app, so the software itself is fully translated into and localized into Spanish, so it's ready to be adopted by any Spanish-speaking country in Latin America. And then we're working towards, translating the core documentation for the platform. And then Dana has been working on getting some of our promotional materials for the initiative and the platform translated into Spanish, so we can work towards bringing on more partners and customers and working through some of the language barriers.
Okay. And Dana, from your perch in Belize, how are you viewing the Latin American initiative?
I view the Latin American initiative very much like the overall Mifos initiative. We're all here in the same space trying to include people in quality financial services so that they can increase the quality of their lives. Because of some of the language barriers, we've not really been too terribly successful in Latin America, but as Ed said, we're translating our documents, and what I want to do with the passion that I have for this is to bring more people on using the Mifos platform, because one of the biggest stumbling blocks for a financial institution is the expense of the IT. Your computer expenses are typically rather high, and leaving someone behind who will be a local resource for ongoing maintenance. And Mifos addresses both of those issues because it's open source. You download it without any of the beautiful stuff that Musoni has built on top of the platform. It can be fully used, and possibly if someone has a screenshot of one of, a little bit of our system that they can pull up, that would be great. Someone could share a screen. And also the other thing is we're helping to build indigenous businesses. We have very intelligent tech people all over the globe. We have them all over Latin America. If they can use the Mifos system as a core to provide support to financial institutions, you're building an economy there. You're using the local resources not only to support, but also to hire more people in. So from my viewpoint, using the Mifos X platform is a win-win, not only for the people who make $2 a day, but also for those small entrepreneurs who want to build a business. And it's a very good collaborative effort. And then tying that into our global community, there is so much high-quality support. Marcus is a great example. He just popped in out of the blue with this big bundle of talent and just freely gives advice, mentors students, builds code, pays back code. it's just all a very good community that builds strength. And I know that I go a little bit long. I'm sorry, but
I got another
work.
So the answer is we have a foothold in Latin America, and we have a major commitment to make that bigger. Now I've got another question here on camera, and I may need your help with it. It may be a purely technical question, or it may be related to standards in Latin America. But the question is, why did we choose to use SMS? And I think this is aimed at you, Cameron, when you were doing your Musoni demo. Why did you choose to use SMS and not USSD? And I've been in technology long enough not to be afraid to admit I don't know what USSD is.
USSD is sorry, am I on mute or am I?
No, you're live.
USSD is well, an alternative way that you could do some of the communication that a lot of people do with SMS. So it's basically when you do things like *155# and then you click ring on your phone, and then it gives you a menu. So you have option 1, kind of send money. So you press 1, click send, and then it would quickly ping whichever server it was pinging and send back the next set of options for you. It works very well. A lot of mobile network operators use it rather than SIM toolkit technology across Africa. We use the SMS slightly differently. We use the SMS primarily for communicating directly with the clients, rather than the clients directly communicating with us. So we do the SMS to send out payment reminders, arrears, follow-up messages, marketing campaigns, you name it. Each of the organizations we support uses the SMS module in a slightly different way, and they can, they can design whatever contents of SMS and determine the recipients depending on business rules. Why we went for that? Everyone has a very basic mobile phone, and therefore communicating with all of these clients is very, very straightforward. It's also very, very cheap for the microfinance organization, and that's absolutely key. Because USSD, you end up paying quite large amounts of money to the mobile network operators to get your premium shortcodes. And that's perfectly good for a large MFI, but it's not as appropriate for a smaller MFI, where the amounts that they would be paying just to have the USSD channel up and running for them are quite prohibitive. So we felt that wasn't really viable for most of the organizations operating in the rural areas where we're trying to really, add value. Obviously, what's changed a little bit on that is that the cost of smartphones has been dropping more and more. They're getting cheaper and cheaper, and internet connectivity across Africa is increasing. So what we started doing in partnership with Mifos as well, and obviously Craig and Abe, you know this, but the other participants don't, is that we are building a client-facing app at the moment. And this will be an Android app that runs on very, very basic smartphones. And it will allow clients to do balance inquiries, account transfers, loan applications, and communicate directly with the microfinance organization. And it's probably going to be a bit premature in the market at the moment. You know, smartphones are still not affordable for everyone, but we think the market is moving in that direction. And I think that will blow both SMS and USSD out of the water once we release it, because it will be free for people to use.
Exciting, exciting. And so there's a cost issue. Also, you're using SMS in the very conventional sense of you're communicating with an individual. You're not actually using USSD to trigger software activities in the back end.
That's correct. So the way we normally do it is we integrate with the mobile money transfer services. So let's say a client repays a loan installment using M-Pesa. We've integrated with M-Pesa, so we pick up that loan installment from M-Pesa, we allocate it to the correct client's account automatically, and then the system recognizes that we've received that and can automatically send the client an SMS saying, "Thank you very much, we've received your repayment." But that's one way it would work, and that's why the USSD is not quite so relevant there.
All right, thank you. Excellent answer. We've reached the hour. Whoa, I don't think so. Okay, so we've reached the 1 hour mark. We are available to answer more questions if more come in, but at this point, as we come to the formal end, I would like to reiterate our formal commitment, and the purpose behind this e-seminar to begin with was to make public to a global audience, the Mifos Initiative commitment, and we are committed to ensuring that the Progress Out of Poverty Index and other social performance management frameworks, so there it is, other social performance frameworks can be captured and analyzed as an integral part of the client workflow in the Mifos X platform. And we will have full PPI integration for 56 countries in the Mifos X community app, and we will have 5 standard reports that can be analyzed, that can analyze the PPI data. And that's our commitment, and you've heard us say we're going to do it. So thank you very much. If you have any more follow-up questions, by all means, please ask them. And if not, we can
thank you very much.
Your workday.
Thank you, everyone, for participating, and thank you, Craig, well, Craig and everyone from Mifos, really, who joined in today, and in particular Marcus, for the fantastic presentation. Really enjoyed it.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, everyone. Okay.